It's Friday, November the 10th. Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our weekend weather update and the outlook right across next week as we get to the middle part of November and we're in that classic time of year where you can still sometimes feel winter, but summer's definitely coming in, and we're seeing that with the temperatures, especially around Australia at the moment. Plenty of thunderstorms this morning, and you're going to be seeing plenty more developing across today and the next few days ahead. There's a lot of low pressure around Australia, not usually the normal with El Nino, but this is not the normal El Nino because it's warmer than average on this side of the world. Normally with El Nino, it's cooler in the sea conditions. So having warmer than average sea surface conditions, not only around parts of the Tasman Sea where these thunderstorms are, but also up in the tropics. So that kind of breaks the El Nino pattern, which is good because for the most part, most people in New Zealand and Australia don't want a major drought. Although if you asked a lot of New Zealanders, do you want a big, long, dry stretch of weather? Most would say yes. So we want a touch of El Nino, and we may get that this summer if we continue to see these rainmakers forming around the place, which is good news at the moment. So here we are on Friday at the end of the day in big high pressure zone here moving in over New Zealand. So mostly light winds and still a little bit of a southerly flow though, especially cooler for the eastern side of the North Island, but warming up for the inland part of the South Island. Frosty this morning down to -2 and 3 around Southland and Otago. Could be a frost again tonight. Check the frost forecaster at ruralweather.co.nz. And just the last feature, a lot of low pressure in the tropics, a lot of low pressure in the dark shading around Australia. Again, that's not quite so normal with El Nino, but that's what we want. We want this El Nino to be a bit broken so that we don't end up in a major drought. We want it to dry out for parts of New Zealand, but parts of Australia that haven't had rain since winter need some coming in soon. So let's have a look at the 3-day rainfall for Australia. Obviously our Australian update yesterday has much more detail, but just a glance, you can see plenty of downpours, thunderstorms forming here and showers along the eastern side as well, also around Tasmania. We've got some New Zealand rainfall maps, but they are in a couple of days' time, so we'll show you those once we get through a few more slides. And the maximum departure from normal, in other words, how much warmer or cooler is it today and tomorrow during the afternoons for this time of the year. And you can certainly see over 8 degrees above average in this shading here. Adelaide 37 today. Look at tomorrow, 22 degrees, back to normal. In fact, even maybe slightly below normal. And then that heat pushes up towards New South Wales and across New South Wales. In New Zealand, the eastern side of the North Island, cooler than average today, thanks to the southerly, but over 8 degrees above average inland for those places that started off with a frost. And then tomorrow, that heat spreads further across the South Island, but the North Island is still cooler along the eastern side. So fairly traditional temperatures really for a high pressure zone coming in around the middle of November. Cooler nights and then warmer afternoons. So let's get into the weather forecast on Saturday. Now this is for each map here that we show you is for lunchtime in New Zealand. So that's around about 10 a.m. if you're over here along the eastern side of Australia. And I'm sure you can work out your time zones if you're further to the west. So this is how we shape up. Now this won't show all the thunderstorms and showers that form across Australia during the later part of the day. You'll need to check your local forecast for that information. But as far as New Zealand's concerned, beautiful day, Saturday. Get out there, do the early Christmas shopping or all that madness that's starting. Whatever you got on this weekend, Saturday is looking really good. As we go through to Sunday, high pressure moves further to the north. That allows this pulse of warm weather coming out of Australia to move into New Zealand. And so it loses a few degrees of warmth crossing the Tasman, but that's the reason why Sunday sees warmer weather spreading in around New Zealand with those westerlies, especially overnight temperatures, which are in the frost territory for now, but won't be by the time we reach Sunday night, or Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then going into Monday morning. So we've got a couple of rainfall maps here. This is from Sunday, 7 o'clock in the morning, just a 24-hour one. Shows maybe a shower, forming in the hills here, but mostly the rain in Fiordland, where there could be 125 millimetres falling in just one day. So that's a lot. So just be aware of that if you know anyone that's heading over to the Milford Sound. Now here we are for the next 24 hours. This is from Monday morning, 7 o'clock. Again, just a couple of showers coming into the north. Most of the rain on the west coast there with another sort of heavy day of rain, but it moves further up towards Hokitika as you go through the afternoon. So Monday lunchtime, that's the cold front there, slowly moving up. And because of the high pressure zone, that's the reason why those rainfall totals on the west coast are quite high. The front's very slow moving. It's not likely to do much as it moves up the country, but down here in our rainforest, one of the wettest places on earth, Fiordland. That's the reason why you're seeing a fair bit of rain coming in there. And the windy westerlies across the country. Over in Australia, windy westerlies also around Tasmania, but that will be a cooler southerly coming in for Melbourne and other parts of Victoria. So by Tuesday, we've got quite a few features on the map. Let's start with the one that's behind me. Big storm out here to the east, but it's well east of the Chatham Islands and it's well south to southeast of the Cook Islands. So it's in a bit of a no man's land, but it's a big storm out at sea. Further to the north, just north of Fiji, this could be a tropical cyclone. If it forms into one, it does look like it'll be at the lower end of the scale. And that's thanks to this big high pressure zone. El Nino tends to put more highs up here to the north. So when we had the remnants of Lola last month, it was unusual, but also it just fell in a gap between high pressure zones. That's why we had some of the leftovers coming into New Zealand. This system is blocked by this high. So at this stage, we're not sure if it's a cyclone, but it's a low pressure depression. Sorry, it's a tropical depression up here just north of Fiji. Worth keeping a close eye on. And then the other feature is this big block of high pressure coming out of the Indian Ocean. And that's sending in a cooler southerly for Australia on the southeastern side, but a hotter easterly if you live in Perth and the rest of Western Australia. And then finally, low pressure remains around the top of Australia. That encourages thunderstorms and afternoon showers. So by Wednesday of next week, no real change. That low's moved closer into Fiji. The high is still north of New Zealand. The front moving up completely falls apart. And a cooler sou'wester once again coming back into the lower South Island. And over in Australia, rain lingers here in the southeastern corner, and there'll be isolated showers that form in the day. Again, the maps here show late morning for you in Australia, so you need to fast forward another 5-6 hours to get those big thunderstorms that form inland. And our final map for Thursday shows that tropical low sort of falling apart over Fiji, so it may well bring a fair bit of rain, and that humidity is going to go up as it really pulls down the tropical air into you. And the Tasman's got a developing low in between this high and the next one, which is way out over the Indian Ocean. So we'll be keeping an eye on what happens with this and the leftovers of that, because there's a gap in the middle here between those two highs. So far too early to lock in if there's anything coming to New Zealand, but just letting you know, this area in the middle here, worth keeping an eye on as we get towards the end of next week. And that is all from me. Just a reminder, we have these new podcasts running at the moment. Thanks very much to FMG and Farmers Weekly. And you can find them on the Farmers Weekly website, on the Weather Watch website, or the Rural Weather website. So it's easy to find them. And we're discussing from a farming perspective and a growing perspective, what does this all mean? Especially if the El Nino pattern is a bit broken. And the farmers we're speaking to, the experts that we interview on this show with Suze and myself, they are really giving us some good insights as to what to do on the farm, regardless of what actually happens with El Nino in the months ahead. So it's about being prepared, but not stressing yourself out too much. I hope you listen to it. It's well worth a listen. It's only 10 to 15 minutes. And we do that every Wednesday for the rest of this year. Thank you to FMG. That's all from me. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.